Yes, God is so good, yes? That presence and that power of the one light, the one magnificence, the one source is expressing at the point of each and every one of you, and you look marvelous. You look good, you're singing good, you're feeling good, yes? It's a beautiful day. This is the second week of our hero's journey. This year, 2018, we are walking the footsteps of a hero. And today, last week, was the call to freedom, answering the call to the understanding and the awareness that we are unbounded by any human limitation. Yes? Today, it is the commitment to answering the call to awaken, to be fully and completely awake to the vast miracle that is you, that is me, that is us. And to know that that unboundedness is not a one-time event. It is now a new way of being, a new way of expressing, a new way of experiencing the vast miracle of love. Yes? It's also a day where we follow the footsteps of heroes who have awakened humanity. And it is Martin Luther King Jr. weekend. And we stand on the shoulders of a man and a movement that awakened humanity, that it could never go back and be the same again. Do we have a ways to go? Yes, we do. A long ways to go. But look back at where we have come from and say, thank you, Dr. Martin Luther King, because you set a course and you set a path for us to step and to carry that banner of equality, that banner of freedom. And so I wanted to offer you a couple of quotes, and then we're going to read, three of us are going to read from the I Have a Dream speech that Dr. King gave us as our opening prayer. We're talking about A Course in Miracles today. We have the incredible hero and friend of mine, Laina Orlando, who's going to give us a beautiful perspective from A Course in Miracles. I'll be talking a little bit about unity, and we'll be using the context of the civil rights movement to start our service. Dr. King said this: it could have been written in A Course in Miracles. It could have been written by the Fillmores. We are all caught in an inescapable network. I'm going to bring the music down, and I want the vibration of the Sacred Sound Ministry to begin playing, because these words contain vibration. And let the vibration of the Tibetan bowls take it far beyond our time, far beyond just the words, and let the work continue. We are all caught in an inescapable network of mutuality, tied into a single garment of destiny. Whatever affects one directly affects all indirectly. Dr. Martin Luther King. He knew we belonged to each other. He knew that we belonged to each other regardless of the color of our skin, the belief system of our religion, or any differences that may look like a divided world, that we belong to each other. He also said this, and this could have been written by the channeled work of A Course in Miracles. Everything that we see is a shadow cast by that which we do not see. What is out here is nothing more than illusion, a dream, a shadow of a love that has either been forgotten or is being fully expressed. Let love be the dominant energy that we share today. And the third quote: darkness cannot drive out darkness. Only light can do that. Hate cannot drive out hate. Only love can do that. The most powerful force on the planet is love. Let the words that we speak, let the prayers that we pray be immersed in the energy of love, and to know that they are the most powerful force on the planet. I'd like to invite Michael Burke now to come forward. And Michael and Avril and I are going to give you these words from the I Have a Dream speech. I invite you to take them inward. As the bowls continue, I invite you to close your outer eyes. And let's enter a sacred container where these words can be infused into the very cells of our being, to know that the work that was begun by Dr. King continues today. I say to you today, my friends, even though we face the difficulties of today and tomorrow, I still have a dream. It is a dream deeply rooted in the American dream.
I have a dream that one day this nation will rise up and live out the true meaning of its creed. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal.
I have a dream that one day, on the red hills of Georgia, the sons of former slaves and the sons of former slave owners will be able to sit down together at the table of brotherhood.
I have a dream that my 4 little children will one day live in a nation where they will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character.
One day, little black boys and black girls will be able to join hands with little white boys and little white girls as sisters and brothers.
I have a dream that one day every valley shall be exalted, every hill and mountain shall be made low. The rough places will be made plain, and the crooked places will be made straight. And the glory of the Lord shall be revealed, and all flesh shall see it together.
With this faith, we will be able to transform the jangling discords of our nation into a beautiful symphony of brotherhood. With this faith, we will be able to work together, to pray together, to struggle together, to go to jail together, to stand up for freedom together, knowing that we will be free one day.
And when this happens, when we allow freedom to ring, when we let it ring from every village and every hamlet, from every state and every city,
we will be able to speed up that day when all of God's children, black men and white men, Jews and Gentiles, Protestants and Catholics, will be able to join hands and sing in the words of the old Negro spiritual.
Together,
Free
at last.
Free at last.
Thank God Almighty,
we are free
at last.
The hero's call has come. Let us be fully and completely awake to the hero's journey that we are on and carry the torch and the banner and the flame of freedom and equality for all people. This is our prayer. This is our experience, and this is our expression. And with grateful thanks to the presence of God that makes it so, and to Dr. Martin Luther King, we proceed. And so it is, and so we let it be. Amen, amen. Together, amen.
Amen.
The teachers said, greater love has no one than they give their life for their friend. And oftentimes we think, oh, that life means I have to give up my very life. No, it means to give every part of your life, whether it be kindness and love, generosity and compassion. My life will not be in vain. To live my life in a place of service to the oneness, to the love that is calling for expression through me as a hero. Today, I am delighted to invite up to this platform somebody who emulates and demonstrates the qualities that Dr. Martin Luther King demonstrated, that the song demonstrated, that what I just talked about it. Her mission on the planet is to bring a greater awareness of love, not only for herself, but for anybody who happens to be in her field. And from there, it's trickled down, because then it goes out into humanity. This is a powerful woman, a powerful hero, and an incredible friend of mine and of Unity North. And we're going to speak a little bit about A Course in Miracles, and I can't think of anybody more profoundly able to do that than the person I'm going to share the platform with. Will you please welcome Laina Orlando. So,
Good morning.
love incarnate right here, expressed, and love incarnate right there, and she's going to remind you all that. So what we thought, Laina and I love to get together and talk about how Unity and Course in Miracles, and actually 100 other religions, are all teaching the same kinds of things, but nobody puts it, no text puts it quite the same way as A Course in Miracles. So I wanted to introduce you to what's going on here at Unity. We have several Course in Miracles classes, and to give a little bit of an overview about the beautiful bridge that can be built. And I thought I'd start with asking Laina to just give us, how did Course in Miracles come to be about?
It's a fascinating story. So in the 1960s, two colleagues, William Thetford and Helen Schuckman, they were psychologists who worked together at a teaching university in New York. They really respected each other as colleagues, but they had a really contentious relationship. And one day, Bill said, clearly there's got to be another way. And what he was talking about is there's got to be another way other than us working through our egos, always bumping up against each other, competing.
Nobody else has ever experienced that, right?
So, amazingly, and this is just the way spirit works, Helen immediately began to receive some images that were somewhat startling to her. These amazing things came into her mind, and she started sharing it with Bill. And one day she said, this voice keeps telling me to write these things down. And Bill said, there's no harm in that, just write it down. And out came out, this is A Course in Miracles. And for 7 years, she took the dictation given to her by Jesus. That is the book today that is transforming lives around the world. And it's got published in the 1970s, so it's been around over 50 years.
What I love is that you said Bill and Helen, where two or more are gathered in the name of a new paradigm, a new shift, a new energy, nothing can stop it from being. And sometimes my part is simply to kick Helen in the hind end and be the Bill and say, there's something that wants to be birthed through you. Bring it forth. Bring it forth. And Course in Miracles is a channeled work, correct?
Channeled work. Jesus is the one who is channeling the information to Helen. And what's interesting about her is she's a Jewish person who had an upbringing with a Baptist caretaker. So she was one of these people that didn't believe a whole lot in God. So she was perfect. And as a psychologist, it's really perfect because the Course in Miracles, if you look at it objectively, it's a psychological, mystical piece of work. It has the psychology, the understanding of how the mind works, but it is as mystical, as esoteric as anything that I've ever seen. It's a combination of the two.
So we define mystical here at Unity as, you're all mystics. Every one of you is mystics to the degree that you were able to see beyond the veil of the human circumstances, the human conditions. Course in Miracles is seeing beyond the shadow, beyond the illusion. Unity is all about seeing beyond the human condition and process to a deeper reality, a truer reality. They are like mists. Everything else is just a mist. We clear the mist and love emerges. Yes?
Exactly. And how to clear the mist is, to me, what makes the Course in Miracles such a profound piece of work. In my 15-year spiritual journey, it wasn't until about the last 6 years when I came across A Course in Miracles that I finally got what my ego is. I finally got what the illusion is, what the obstacle is. It explains what the shadow is. But what makes it very confronting for people is that it tells you that it's nothing. So you start going, well, what are all these fears? If they're nothing, what are you talking about? And the Course goes on to explain that nothing real can be threatened. So what is love? What is God? What is the energy of love, which is what God is, cannot be threatened. When you understand the eternalness of yourself, when you understand the magnitude of the magnificence of the creative source, it cannot create anything unlike itself. So where do fears come from? Where do shadows come from? And that's where the Course is really juicy, because it explains exactly what they are.
It reminds me of Jesus, who basically said, I'm in the world, but I'm not of this world. I'm having a human experience. We're all having a human experience, but we will not be defined by that experience because there's a greater reality. He was living from the foundational truth that he was spirit first and foremost, and always, and only. That all of this stuff that we make up, a human body, they're things that we have. I have a body. I have thoughts. I have feelings. I have experiences. They are not me. That there is a greater reality that is, we're all vibrating at some degree or level. And as we wake up to that fact, oneness is no longer a theory in a church. Oneness is a state of being. Love is a state of being. And so what I thought we would do here today is I'm going to throw the unity principles out there and let Laina just run with them through the lens of A Course in Miracles.
Oh, boy.
Unity principle number 1. We clearly teach here, foundational to everything we do, there is one presence. There's only one power, there's only one substance, there's only one goodness. Did I say that there's only one? We do not have a dualistic environment. There cannot be that's a house that will fall. The world is not designed that way. Everything we see, feel, touch, know, experience has its roots and its beginnings in a state of oneness, which we call God, which we call good, but I like to take good out of it. It just is. What do you think?
That's exactly what the Course in Miracles says, God is. And when you begin to understand that God is in everything that we see, this is God. This is made of energy, and it is God. That's God. This is God.
Could you tell my wife?
Every one of us is God. Susie, that's God. Richard, Susie's God. It applies to everything. You begin to really have this reverence for everything that is around. And the Course is really clear that we only have one problem. If we really got what that problem was, we would have no more problems. And the problem is an authority problem. God created everything, but we run around thinking that we too are creating our own experience, our own little worlds, and that we are creators usurping God's power because we are not operating from love. When we deny God, we're operating from fear. Because innately inside of us, we know that we have said, all right, God, you created everything, but I got it. You know, go take a break. I've got this under control. And that instills an incredible amount of fear because now we're divided. Now there's God over there that I'm not listening to and me over here trying to do everything by myself unnecessarily.
So let me ask you a question, because this is one that comes up all the time in my office. If it's only one power, only one presence, one goodness, where was that fall from grace, that inevitable leaving of the Garden of Eden? A knowledge began to emerge or a belief, not a knowledge because it's not true, that there's God in something else, that there's good in something else. Where does that have its roots?
So the Course says that in the root is the ego. The Course says that the ego is nothing more than a tiny, mad idea. It's a crazy thought. It's a crazy thought that says that I'm something other than how God created me. So the reason we suffer so much is because, you know, thousands and thousands and thousands of years ago, when we got these physical bodies, we began to look at each other from our primitive brain, and we begin to look at each other as separate from one another. And when we become hungry, well, it's a survival thing. And we haven't outgrown that survival system for all of these thousands of years. So the ego is nothing more than a denial that we were created as one to cooperate and collaborate. Instead, we have taken that on as competition and survival. That has set up this game that Course in Miracles is coming in now, because Jesus makes it really clearly. The world is pretty mad right now, and we need some lights in the planet. So as you study A Course in Miracles and you begin to see what you really are, now what you're not is what you're going to begin to transcend, which is the ego. It's that tiny mad idea that I am other than how God created me.
So if I can play with that a little bit, the belief and the suffering that comes from a belief in being separate from the infinite, from all that is, began with an idea that there's you and me, that we are separate, or that my God can beat up your God.
Yeah.
Anybody
or that
ever
I
that?
can beat up you.
Yeah, my God's better than your God. And it began at a very human level. The fall from the awareness of oneness began with us feeling like we were separate. And it's an us job. It's not just solely on one person. It is humanity as a whole. We live in a collective container, a collective consciousness. So don't take full responsibility for the fall from grace today, okay? We inherited a set of belief systems, and our job as spiritual students is to return home as the prodigal son comes home. One thought, one idea, one moment, one expression, one awareness of oneness at a time. That doesn't mean that it's circumstantially related. It doesn't mean because we're having a good relationship, I return home. No, it's because I behold you as the presence of God. Unity principle number 2. If everything is good, everything is God, then the spark of divinity is in me. Love expresses at the point of me. I am the point of power in the mind of God, and so are you. And when somebody asks you from a unity lens, do you believe that Jesus was the Son of God? We say absolutely yes. And so are you, the sister, the daughter, and the son of the infinite, because there is nothing else. And so we have to, the remedy to returning to God, to home, is the awareness that you and I are the same thing. The eyes with which I see you are the eyes of God, and the eyes with which you see me are the eyes of God, and it's God beholding God, sharing with God. How does that fit into Course in Miracles?
So it fits perfectly. The only thing is the Course doesn't say you have to return home. The Course says you are home and you never left. You just think you did. So it's a shift in perception. The miracle is the recognition. I'm already here. I mean, where do you guys think we are? We're inside of the mind of God. We're inside of something. So we don't have to go anywhere. We just right here need to recognize that we are already, as God created us, the presence of love.
So there's no more God available in tomorrow than there is today. Yes?
Exactly.
So it's not a journey of awakening, it's a journey of being.
Because there's no time. Course in Miracles says that time is an illusion. We've made that up. I mean, think about it. Were there clocks before there were clocks? No. There was just, life was happening, and we just operated in the moment, and we created clocks, and we began to run around like crazy people, trying to beat the clock, trying to get to Friday, trying to get to something else. And in that process, we have totally, completely created a separate sense of self. And Jesus in the Course is really clear that he is no different than we are. And Jesus says, until you recognize me as one with you, the same as you, you're not going to remember that we are already at home. The only difference that Jesus highlights in the Course is that he knows he is an expression of God and we don't. That's the only distinction. Other than that, we're all the same.
So there's a divine essence, a Christ light within us that's saying, I am the light of the world, I am the light of the world, but so are you.
Exactly.
Greater things than I have done will you do as well.
Yeah.
So what does Course in Miracles do with the idea of the exceptions? We love to find exceptions to the rule. Well, yeah, that's all true. These are all good people, but what about that person?
Well, the Course is very clear. There can be no exceptions. When you begin to make exceptions, your mind is divided, your mind is confused. And when you begin to say there's better or lesser, good or bad, right or wrong, you begin to play the game of the ego, which is the game of duality. If you begin to accept that there are differences, that it's okay for this one but not for that one, you're not living inside of what God has commanded, which is that there is only one. There is absolutely nothing other than yourself, because you've got to understand that everything is consciousness. Everything is an energy field. But we like to divide things up because we see separate bodies, what appear to be separate things. But when you begin to understand, and science has shown us this, everything is made of energy. To the degree that we think thoughts other than how God, and God doesn't think, God knows, we densify ourselves. And in that densifying of ourselves, we appear to be separate. And the Course is inviting us to clean up our consciousness, because when our consciousness is given permission to allow ourselves to receive God's knowing, we become lighter. Why? Because we remove the clouds that cause the darkness, and the light that we are can shine forth. So very, very, Jesus is very clear. Our work, actually, the Course says that we are bringers of light unto the world. We are the bringers of salvation to the planet. And it's a highly individualized course. I can't do it for you. You can't do it for your brother. I tried doing it for my children, and they wouldn't accept it. You have to do it for yourself. That's why teachers like Eckhart Tolle, Marianne Williamson, Wayne Dyer, all students of A Course in Miracles, and we think, wow, how did they get there? They did the work.
So you're saying Course in Miracles is about hard work, is about working the program, and not what I often affectionately say, that our spiritual path is just looking for the next high. We become a spiritual junkie. It must be worked. That's what unity is all about. Work the program, and it will work. Hobbyists do not survive much in A Course in Miracles. Hobbyists do not survive much in unity either. So we have to work that program.
Yes, and it's a... Once you get past the challenging aspect of it, some of the languaging, and I know in my class we make it, I make it simple as it can possibly be. And Laina, who does the Sunday class, she's had that group for, forever. They make it as simple as possible, as practical as possible. So if you want to study A Course in Miracles, it's really wonderful if you come into community, because there is power in hearing how other people are doing the work. But it is a commitment. It is called a study course. It is a course in mind training. So you literally have to train your mind to think truth and not illusion. And here's the crazy thing. We're used to talking about choosing between love and fear, and the Course takes you in the beginning to become aware of the difference between love and fear. But the deeper part of the Course, where few people will venture into, is that there is no fear. So every single time you're experiencing a fear, that's when you're invited into mastery. That's when you're invited to be like Jesus and say, okay, God, what would you have me do here? My own mind is creating fears. My own mind went into judgment, separation. I'm thinking by myself. I have said, God, I got it under control. And it's not until we acknowledge that there is no such thing as fear, if we stop believing it, that's when the magic really happens. That's when the miracle happens, because that's when love can come through you. Now you deal with the same thing that is happening from a place of love.
So there are those that use an acronym for fear. I'm sure you've all heard it, right? False evidence appearing real. And I think that Course in Miracles and Unity would say exactly the same thing. It's an illusion. It's a shadow. I tend to say sometimes, F everything and run.
I do too.
But what I understand you saying, Laina, and it is very much gives me juice, is the tool of the mind. We have a mind. It is not a bad thing. It is a tool to be used so that we can transcend it. When we begin to overthink and overcomplicate the spiritual path, we're missing the feeling part, the place where love resides, the state of being, the state of just knowing without searching or grabbing or clutching any new information. It is returning to the place. It's knowing. It's not returning.
Yeah.
It's coming to the place where love and I are the same thing. It's all energetic, and eventually I no longer need to think about it. I no longer need to complicate the system of being. I allow myself to be the vibrating center of love itself. And that's easy to do, isn't it? As you walk your human earthly journey, isn't that easy to do? How many had exceptions come to the mind? I believe that Unity and Course in Miracles would say that those exceptions is the ego going to work.
Well, those exceptions are an untrained mind. Our mind, when we're little children, our mind gets filled with information, with who I am, what I'm supposed to do, what I'm supposed to be, what I'm supposed to have. And we get schooled into believing that our good comes to us later on. You know, we get the degree after we do the schoolwork. We get the job after we do the application. We get married after we have the engagement. We get to retire after we've worked for 40, 50 long years. The world trains us that everything comes after. Course in Miracles says your good came with you because that's where God put it. And that is a really challenging concept for those of us who are on that treadmill waiting to get there. Need the next certificate. We need to the next course, the next thing, the next book, the next workshop.
Come on, give it to me.
It is. It's an addiction. And actually, listening to the ego is an addiction that keeps us searching for what is already inside of us, outside of us. That's one of the hardest things that anybody will ever do, is get still enough to say, wow, maybe I really am magnificent. If God put itself in me, the kingdom of heaven, where is it? It's in me. If God put it in me, what would happen if I start honoring that? And when you get that it's in you, and there are no exceptions, guess where else it is? In everybody else.
So you've jumped ahead to Unity Principle number 4. You said the magic word.
Yeah.
So number 3, just for the record, number 3 is my thoughts are creating my reality. That process that's going on in the monkey mind, the neener machine, and in the feeling nature is creating the reality that is out here. And it changes and shifts. The mists move and shift. That's Unity Principle number 3. We are responsible for the conditions of our life. Suffering, heaven, hell. It's all dependent on what's going on the inside. But what you said is return to the silence. Return to the silence. I believe Course in Miracles and Unity would tell you, you've got to, Jesus said, I'm in the world, but I'm not of it. I've got to check out. I have to go to headquarters. I have to remember the divine essence that's there, where I turn off the neener machine. I turn off the distractions of the human condition and any exception that I may find out here. Let me go into the closet, Jesus would say. Let me go to the upper room. Let me go to the mountain, and let me remember the truth, so that then when I go out into the world, I can be the vibrating center. But Unity Principle number 4 is prayer and meditation. And that both lead to the place of silence, which is not the absence of chaos, not the absence of sound, but the state of being.
It is, and if you read Eckhart Tolle's book, Stillness Speaks, it is right out of A Course in Miracles. When I began to read the Course, and I had already studied Eckhart Tolle's Stillness Speaks, it finally made sense. Where did he get this? A Course in Miracles, 30-year student of A Course in Miracles. Absolutely amazing. That meditation is powerful. Meditation was something that I really did not want to do. When I first started, I'll do anything but meditation.
How many resonate with that? The first time they asked you to be quiet for a half an hour, you went resistance. Resistance comes up.
2 minutes. I don't want to sit still for 2 minutes. So that was very challenging. For me, the way that it worked was through contemplation. But when the mind, no matter how you get to that place, meditation, contemplation, when your mind begins to get quiet, and now you don't have all those thoughts that are arguing with the world, there's this peace that comes over you. When you begin to drop into that peaceful place inside of you, inside of that stillness, you hear God. Where do you think little children, 2, 3-year-olds who don't have words, who don't have sentences in their minds, who don't have a belief system yet, where do you think they get their joy? They don't have a thought saying, oh, I'm going to wake up today and be happy at 3 o'clock. I'm going to put that on my calendar to be happy and play and have fun. They just are. And we have to learn how to train our mind. And the way that the Course in Miracles teaches it is just to question those thoughts. If anybody here is a student of Byron Katie's, that's, she, in essence, teaches that. Is this really true? Is this thought true? Question every single thought, because all of them are going to be not true, by the way. Then you drop into that quiet place. That's where God is.
And it transcends words. If we're going into looking into the prayer and the silence and meditation, I need the voice of God, and it needs to sound like my grandpa, and it needs to use language that I use in the human condition. You've lost the journey. It transcends. It's an energy that is not going to. You're not going to hear words, right?
No words. No words. It's a feeling. It's a knowingness. It's a sensation. Because it's a state of beingness. So there's no words that explains what you are. You just are. Like a little baby doesn't have to think, oh, I'm hungry. It just is.
We must become
hunger.
like a child to enter the kingdom of heaven. This is what Jesus taught us. We're going to do that right now. We're going to implement unity principle number 4, and we'll finish after the meditation with the 5th principle and the action piece. Avril's going to come up, and I'm going to invite you to get into a space of just being. All the stuff that we've talked about, see if you can just set it aside. Any thoughts about what you're going to do when you're done with this moment, see if you can just let it go. Can you be the veritable vibrating center of love and release anything else that is unlike that love, which is nothing more than an illusion? We're going to do that together. Let's begin by breathing. Take a deep breath. Get as comfortable as you can in your seat, in your skin, in your life, in this now moment. And we're going to sing a song. Let the song be like a gentle lullaby, bringing you to the state of being, the state of awakeness. Not an awakening. The state of being awake is here and now. We allow the walls to fall down, the blocks to simply dissolve, as we fall easy into the vast miracle of love that we are. Sing with us as you feel led.